Esther knew pain. But not the kind you feel in your body. No. The kind that lives deep in your chest. The kind you wake up with every morning, and go to bed with tears in your eyes. Because when the one who's supposed to love you treats you like dirt, how do you even breathe? That is the story of Esther. Her stepmother, Madam Janet, didn't beat her every day, no. She didn't have to. It was the words. The silence. The food she cooked and served everyone, except her. The way she'd tell Esther to kneel on bare gravel from morning till evening, and still expect her to smile when visitors came. Esther had no brothers. No sisters. No escape. But it hadn't always been this way. Her mother, Selah. Ah, that woman loved Esther like breath itself. Selah had waited 10 long years to conceive. 10 years of prayers. Of insults. Of tears on her pillow while others danced at child dedications. And when Esther finally came, she wasn't just a daughter. She was a miracle. A song. Selah tied 2 red beads around baby Esther's ankles and whispered, "No matter where you go, these will remind you, Mama loves you." But good things don't last long in this world. Selah died of fever when Esther was just 10. And her father, in his weakness, married Janet less than a year later. That's when the story changed. Janet came with cold eyes and warm lies. She fed everyone, but left Esther's plate empty. She dressed her own daughter in lace, while Esther wore old wrappers tied under her armpit. And when Esther asked why, Amara smiled and said, "Your mother is gone. You are no one's child now." But even all that, couldn't prepare Esther for what would happen the night of the festival. The night the royal drums would echo through the village. The night every girl had prepared for. Except her. Because Janet, that night, she did the unthinkable. She burnt it. Esther's only dress. The one she had sewn in secret from market scraps. Gone. Turned to ash, just minutes before the palace guards arrived with a scroll that would change her life forever. Sometimes, Esther wondered, was she really that hard to love? Because every day in that house felt like a punishment. Not just from Janet, but from Linda, her stepmother's first daughter. That one had cruelty dancing in her eyes like it was born there. Linda would wake up in the morning, stretch her arms, and shout, "Auntie Cinderella! Time to clean the whole compound, oh!" And Esther, with her tired eyes and cracked hands, would rise before the sun. She'd sweep the front yard, fetch water, wash all the clothes, cook breakfast she wasn't allowed to eat. And when she got one thing wrong, slap. You even sweep like your useless mother. You think because you're slim and quiet you're better than my daughters. Janet will always shout. Sometimes Janet would pour out soup on the ground just because Esther tasted it without permission. Or throw hot water near her feet and say it was an accident. Esther learned early how to cry silently. Because if she made noise, Linda would make it worse. Linda, laughing, "Cry now. Cry more. It makes your ugly face look better." But there was one person in that house who didn't laugh. Grace. Janet's second daughter. Grace was different, quiet, thoughtful. And whenever their mother insulted Esther, Grace would lower her head, pretend to be tying her wrapper, and walk away. Sometimes she would leave a little roasted yam for Esther behind the kitchen, saying nothing. Sometimes she'd whisper softly, "I'm sorry. I don't know why she's like this," Grace said gently. But Grace never fought for her. Never stood up. Because in that house, Janet was a god. And Grace, she was just a worshipper. Still, Esther could feel her kindness, even in silence. But what do you do when silence is the loudest sound in your world? Some nights, when the moon was full and the wind was soft, Esther would run barefoot into the bush behind their house. To that one place that still felt like home. Her mother's grave. She would kneel there, place both hands on the soil, and whisper like a child begging heaven to open. Esther, whispering with tears, "Mama, why did you go? Why did you leave me here with these people? Do you see me? Do you still remember me?" The wind would blow. The leaves would fall. But her mother never answered. Only the crickets did. That night, as she sat by the grave with her knees muddy and her cheeks soaked in tears, she heard Linda calling from a house. Linda, shouting, "Witch! Where are you? If you don't come back now, I'll tell Mama you're sneaking around with boys in the bush." Esther didn't move. She stayed. Let the night hide her. Let the moon be her only witness. Because the dead may not answer. But they don't lie either. And somehow, in that silence, she felt her mother's love, even if no one else gave it to her. The sun rose gently the next morning, but in Esther's heart, nothing felt new. Just another day to suffer. Just another day to survive. She was in the backyard, washing a mountain of clothes with her cracked hands, when she heard the village gong beating in the distance. Gong, 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 followed by a man's loud voice echoing through the streets. Town crier, excitedly. "People of Umuokoro, the king has spoken. A grand festival will hold in 2 weeks. Every maiden is invited to attend. One lucky girl shall be chosen to become queen." The news swept through the village like fire on dry grass. Children ran. Women screamed. Drummers began to beat in celebration. Esther paused, her hand still inside the soapy basin. Her heart thumped softly. Queen. What did that even mean for a girl like her? Inside the house, Janet was already clapping and laughing like a madwoman. Janet. "Oh, my Linda. My golden daughter. You will wear your yellow lace. You must go and meet the prince. He will fall for your beauty, I swear." Linda flipped her hair dramatically. Linda, smirking. "Don't worry, Mama. That prince won't even look at any other girl when I arrive." Then her eyes locked on Esther, who had just entered with a bowl of wet clothes. Linda, mocking. "But not everybody can go Shah. Some people are too dirty. Too bush. Abi, Esther." They laughed. Janet didn't stop there. "Janet, you go to festival? With what dress? The one your mother left before she died? That torn wrapper? Nonsense. You better focus on washing toilets." Esther said nothing. But deep down, something stirred. A small voice. A tiny, forgotten dream whispering. What if? She walked to the back of the house, quietly, and pulled out the old wooden box where her mother's belongings were kept. There it was. Folded neatly. Wrapped in cloth. The last thing her mother ever sewed before she died. A simple, blue gown. Nothing fancy. But clean. And sacred. Esther hugged it close to her chest. She could almost smell her mother's perfume. Esther, softly. "Maybe, just maybe, I'll go. Even if I stand at the back. I want to see what it feels like to be seen." But someone had been watching from behind the window. Linda. And that night, something wicked happened. Esther came home from the market. And she smelled smoke. She ran into the backyard. Esther, shouting, "My dress! My dress! Who burnt my dress?" But it was gone. Her mother's dress was burning in a basin, flames licking the night air like hungry spirits. And standing beside it, Linda, smiling, holding a matchstick. Linda, calmly, "Oops. I thought it was rubbish." Esther fell to her knees. Tears streamed down her face like rain. She tried to pull the dress out, but the fire was faster. Esther, screaming, "That was all I had. That was my mother's. Why, Linda? Why?" Janet, from inside, "If you scream one more time, I'll burn you next." Grace came out, saw the scene, and just stood there, frozen, speechless, watching the fire. And Esther, broken, breathless, heart cracked wide open, ran out of the compound barefoot, weeping like a child. Where did she run to? No one knew. But something was waiting for her in the shadows. Something that would change everything. Esther didn't stop running. She ran to her mother's grave. Esther, crying, "Mama, why did you leave me here? Why didn't you take me with you? Can't you see what they're doing to me? I have no one. No one loves me. I'm tired. Mama, I'm tired." She wept, and wept, until her voice cracked. until the sun dipped low and the air turned cold. The next morning, she woke up early. No more tears. Her face was swollen, but her heart had settled. She returned home before anyone noticed she was gone. She went straight to the backyard and picked up the burnt remains of her mother's dress, folded it gently, and placed it back in the wooden box. Then she went to the market. The market buzzed with energy. Traders shouted over each other, trying to sell their goods. But Esther had no money. She walked quietly between the stalls, admiring the fabrics, the beads, the shoes. Girls her age were trying on outfits for the king's festival, laughing, dreaming. Then something caught her eye. A pair of second-hand black sandals. Very simple, but clean. 500 Nigerian nairas. She reached into her pocket. 300 Nigerian nairas. All she had from helping someone fetch water the week before. She sighed. Just then, an elderly woman selling oranges looked up from her mat. Old woman. You like the sandals? Esther nodded slowly. Esther. But I can't afford it. The woman studied her. Old woman. What's your name, child? Esther. She said. Old woman, softly. Your eyes carry too much pain for someone your age. But there is still light in you. Don't let them kill it. The woman stood up, picked the sandals, and placed them gently in Esther's hands. Esther, shocked. Mama, I don't have enough money. Old woman. You do. Just promise me you won't stop walking, even when the road gets hard. Promise me, Esther. Esther held the sandals to her chest and nodded, tears rushing to her eyes. Esther, whispering, I promise. That evening, Grace knocked on her room door quietly. Grace, softly. Esther, I saw what they did to your dress. I'm sorry. I should have said something. I just didn't want Mama to turn on me too. Esther said nothing, but Grace dropped a small bag on the bed. Inside it, a very lovely gown. A necklace. All hers. Grace, wear this to the festival. You deserve to go. Don't let them make you invisible. Esther's heart squeezed. For the first time in years, someone had seen her. Not just seen her, believed in her. 2 nights before the festival, Linda and her mother were still mocking her. Janet, laughing. Let me see the goat that will dare walk with my daughter at the palace. HA. Village shame. Linda. She'll probably go and sweep the king's floor. But Esther. She said nothing. She was too busy preparing. Adjusting the clothes Grace gave to her. For once in her life, she had something to look forward to. And she had no intention of missing it. The morning of the king's festival came like a trumpet blast. The whole village shook with excitement. Drummers arrived before sunrise. Dancers filled the palace. Women wore their finest lace and gold. Men ironed their wrappers like they were preparing for war. The smell of jollof rice, roasted meat, and palm wine filled the air. And in one small corner of the compound, Esther stood in front of a cracked mirror. Her hands were shaking. Her heart running like a drum in her chest. She wore the clothes Grace gave to her. She tied her scarf the same way Mama used to. And those black sandals from the old woman? She polished them like treasure. She didn't look rich. She didn't look flashy. But she looked proud. She looked whole. For the first time, she looked like someone who knew who she was. Outside the compound, Aunt Janet's voice rang out loud. Linda! Are you ready? The prince's assistant will be watching. Let them know we have daughters in this house. Janet said loudly. Linda stepped out, wearing a gold dress with fake diamonds glued across the neckline. Loud, flashy, overconfident. When Janet saw Esther coming out of her room, her eyes rolled. Janet, mocking. Where do you think you're going, orphan? Are they sharing free food for charity cases now? Esther didn't flinch. She looked her stepmother in the eye. And with a calm voice, she said, To the festival. Like every other girl in this village. Esther said. Then she turned and walked away. Grace was waiting down the road. She gave Esther a little smile. Grace, whispering. You look beautiful, Esther. Don't let anybody dim your shine today. The festival ground, the palace, was a rainbow of culture. The king sat on a giant chair, fanning himself slowly. The prince, tall, handsome, quiet, stood to the side, scanning the crowd. Linda and her friends giggled every time he looked up. They danced harder, laughed louder, even faked trips so someone would catch them. But the prince didn't smile. Not even once. Esther sat alone under a corner. She didn't dance. She didn't shout. She just watched. Watched the kids chase balloons. Watched the prince like he was from another planet. She wasn't looking for love. She wasn't hoping for magic. She just wanted to feel like she belonged. And then, a soft voice behind her. Prince's assistant. "Excuse me, miss. The prince would like to meet you." Esther froze. "Me?" Esther said. "Assistant." "Yes. You." People turned. Whispers flew like wildfire. "Who is she? What is she wearing? Why her?" Linda's mouth dropped open. "No, no, no. That can't be possible. That girl. She's a nobody," Linda said. But the prince wasn't looking at Linda. He was already standing near the where Esther is seated. "Prince," smiling slightly. "You don't look like everyone else. That's what made me notice you." Esther blinked. Her lips parted but no words came out. Esther, softly. "I'm not used to being noticed." "Well, maybe it's time you were," Prince said. The drums kept playing. The wind picked up. And in that one moment, for the first time in her life, Esther felt seen. Not for her beauty. Not for her name. Not for her pain. But for the strength she carried without ever speaking it. The festival ended, but the storm it brought into Esther's life was just beginning. By the next morning, the whole village was buzzing. The prince spoke to her. He ignored Linda for an ordinary girl. "Who is Esther again? That orphan?" Aunt Janet didn't sleep that night. She paced the house like a lioness in a cage. Grace knew something bad was coming. She begged Esther to stay inside. But Esther, she had already learned one thing. Hiding doesn't protect you. It only gives your enemies more space to talk. So, she stepped outside. Head high. Shoulders straight. The moment Janet saw her. Janet, boiling. You think one greeting from a prince makes you a queen?" Esther didn't reply. "After all I've done for you. After all the food I wasted raising a child that wasn't mine." Janet said. Esther, quiet but firm. "You didn't raise me. You punished me. Janet. You ungrateful witch." And with that, Janet raised her hand. But before she could bring it down, Grace, shouting, "No, Mummy! Don't you dare!" The whole compound froze. Janet's hand hung mid-air. Linda blinked like she had seen a ghost. Even the birds stopped chirping. Grace, tears in her eyes. "If you touch her, I swear, I'll leave this house. I've watched you torture her for years and kept quiet. But not anymore." Janet turned to her daughter, stunned. "You too, Grace," she said. "Yes, me too. Esther is the strongest person in this house. And if you can't see that, then maybe you've been blind all these years." Grace said. Esther stood still, shocked. No one had ever defended her like that before. Not even once. That evening, someone knocked at the compound gate. It was the prince's assistant again. He handed Esther a small envelope. It had the king's seal. Inside was a letter. "Dear Esther, the Royal Foundation is offering you a full scholarship. You are invited to continue your studies in the city. Your strength, humility, and grace have not gone unnoticed. The prince personally requested your name. We believe the future belongs to people like you." Tears welled up in Esther's eyes. She held the paper like it was a piece of heaven. Janet snatched it. "Janet! She won't go anywhere. She belongs to me. This is my house." But this time, Esther didn't cry. She didn't beg. She simply walked to her mother's grave behind the compound, knelt down, and whispered, "Esther! Mama! I'm going. I don't know what's waiting for me, but I'm going. Thank you for watching over me. I will make you proud." The next morning, she packed her few belongings. The cracked mirror, her mother's scarf, the polished sandals, and Grace's gown. Grace hugged her tightly. Grace, crying, "Please don't forget me." Esther, smiling, "I could never." And then she walked away. Not as an orphan, not as a burden, but as a girl who had been broken, tested, crushed, and still rose. 1 year later, posters went up all over the village. The headline read, "Royal Youth Ambassador returns home, Esther Okezi to speak on girls' education and courage in the face of adversity." The village square overflowed. Women whispered. Men nodded. Children clapped. When Esther stepped up to speak, she wore a simple gown. No makeup, no jewelry, just strength in her eyes and power in her voice. "Esther," to the crowd. "They said I was nothing, just a poor orphan. They tried to bury me in shame, hunger, and silence. But what they didn't know was that I was a seed." Esther continued, "You see, life doesn't always give you love. Sometimes it gives you pain first, to teach you who you are. And if you survive it, you become unstoppable." The crowd roared. Even Janet, hiding at the back, couldn't deny the truth. And Linda. She couldn't look Esther in the eye. "And who am I?" Esther still speaking. "I'm the daughter of Selah, the woman who waited over a decade to hold me in her arms. I'm the girl who learned to laugh through tears, who fetched water with wounds on her feet, who slept beside cold windows while others wrapped themselves in warmth. But I never lost my heart, even when my only dress was burnt, even when I cried at my mother's grave asking why she left me in this world. I never lost my light, because pain doesn't define me. Love does. Kindness does. And tonight, I didn't come here to ask for love. I came to finally choose myself." She turns to her stepmother, calm but firm. "Mama Linda, you tried to break me. You beat me. You mocked me. You called me a beggar's daughter, a nothing, a mistake. But here I am, not in rags, not in shame. And I forgive you." She turns to Linda, softly. "You didn't have to compete with me, Linda. I was never your enemy. I hope one day you find your own peace." She turns to Grace, holding her gaze. "And Grace, thank you for seeing me, for choosing silence, even when you wanted to scream. I understand now. And I love you." Esther finally turns to the prince, who walks toward her and gently takes her hand. She got married to the prince and they made a happy home.